We obsess over the success stories, the screenshots, the revenue reveals, the I quit my job thumbnails with a guy standing in front of a whiteboard showing a number that doesn't look real. We share them, we screenshot them. We lie in bed at night and think, if he did it, why can't I? But nobody shows you the graveyard. For every person who made it, there are 10,000 abandoned Shopify stores sitting idle with 3 products and 0 sales. 10,000 YouTube channels with 11 videos, the last one uploaded 2 years ago. 10,000 half-finished courses living in someone's Google Drive. Never launched, never deleted, just there. A digital monument to something that almost happened. And behind all of it, behind every course, every coaching program, every free webinar that ends with a $997 offer, is an industry worth over $20 billion that was never designed to make you succeed. It was designed to make you try. It doesn't profit from your success, it profits from your hope. It needs you to almost make it. Just enough momentum to buy the next thing. Just enough belief to stay in the funnel. Just long enough to be replaced by someone newer, hungrier, and more willing to believe the numbers on the whiteboard. The opportunity was real. The odds were just never what they sold you. You know this person. You might be this person. They have a Notion board with 14 business ideas, color-coded and ranked by potential. They started a YouTube channel twice. They bought a Udemy course on dropshipping in 2019, a course on Amazon FBA in 2021, and something about faceless YouTube automation 6 months ago. They're not stupid. They're not lazy. If anything, they work too hard at the starting part. They can build a brand identity for a business that has never made a dollar. They can spend an entire Saturday designing a logo for something that doesn't exist yet. They're exhausted from starting. And every time they stop, they don't tell anyone. They just quietly close the tab, archive the project, and wait a few months until something new appears and the feeling comes back. That specific feeling. The one that says, this time. Here's what nobody says out loud. Every tool you need is free. Every strategy is documented. Every failure pattern has been analyzed, named, and published. The information gap closed years ago. And yet, the failure rate hasn't dropped. It's gotten worse. More people are trying and fewer are making it, proportionally, than at any point in the history of the internet. Failure online was never about access. It's about what happens inside the gap between starting and the moment it gets boring. And that gap, that specific, demoralizing, invisible stretch of time, was not an accident. It was designed. It's 1999. You're 14 years old, maybe 15, and you've just found something on the internet that feels like a secret. It's a forum, or maybe it's a chain email, or a website with a dark background and yellow text that talks about making money from home. No experience required, start today. The writing is bad, the design is terrible, but something in you doesn't care about that, because underneath the bad grammar and the clip art dollar signs, there's an idea that you've never fully considered before. That the normal path, school, job, salary, retirement, is optional. That there's a door most people never find. You don't tell your parents. You don't tell your friends. You just sit there in the blue light of a monitor that's 3 inches thick, and you feel something that isn't quite greed. It's quieter than that, more private. It's the feeling of possibility before it's been tested by reality, before it has to survive contact with effort and time, and a market that doesn't care about your enthusiasm. That feeling is the product. It always was. Fast forward. You're older now. The details have changed, but the feeling is identical. It's not a forum with yellow text anymore. It's a YouTube video with 4 million views and a thumbnail of someone pointing at a number. It's not chain emails. It's a webinar, a coaching program, a private Discord with a $47 monthly fee. The language has been professionalized. The production quality is better. But the feeling they're selling you is the same one you felt at 14, in the dark, reading about a door that most people never find. Dropshipping, crypto, NFTs, print on demand, faceless YouTube, AI automation, affiliate marketing, digital products. Each one arrived with its own vocabulary, its own gurus, its own wave of success stories. And each one, for most people, ends the same way. Not with a dramatic failure, not with a loss so significant it becomes a story. Just a quiet stopping, a tab closed, a project archived, a login credential forgotten. And somewhere along the way, you stopped asking why the system wasn't working. You started asking what was wrong with you. That reframe from systemic problem to personal failure is the most profitable thing the industry ever produced. Here's where it gets interesting. The creator economy, the term itself, was coined and popularized not by creators, but by the platforms that host them. Shopify, YouTube, Kajabi, Teachable. And here's the thing about those platforms. They make nearly identical revenue from your failed store as they do from your successful one. Your $29 monthly Shopify subscription clears the same amount whether you sold 0 products or 10,000. Your course platform takes its cut whether 3 people enrolled or 300. This is not a coincidence. It's a structural reality that nobody in the industry has a financial incentive to explain to you. Goldman Sachs valued the creator economy at over $250 billion in 2023. But when you look at where that money actually goes, the picture changes completely. The top 1% of creators earn approximately 90% of all creator revenue. The median YouTuber with under 10,000 subscribers earns effectively nothing from the platform itself. A 2023 Adobe study found that 57% of Americans now identify as creators. Fewer than 12% earn what could be described as meaningful income from it. Economists call this an asymmetric incentive structure. The platform wins when you participate. It wins more when you succeed, yes, but it doesn't need you to succeed. It just needs you to start and to keep paying while you try. The house doesn't need every player to win. It just needs enough players at the table. Now, here's where most people get it wrong, including the people who teach this stuff. Everyone talks about the importance of starting. Starting is celebrated. There are entire motivational industries built around the act of beginning. What nobody talks about is the middle, the specific, unglamorous, data-free stretch of time between starting something and it actually working. Because that stretch is long. It's longer than anyone tells you. And it looks, from the inside, exactly like failing. Research on content creator timelines shows that the average channel takes somewhere between 18 months and 2 years of consistent posting before hitting the threshold for meaningful algorithmic distribution. 18 months. That's not 18 months of growth. That's 18 months that might look from the outside like nothing is happening. Same small numbers, same quiet comment section, same sense that you're sending things into a void. But here's what the data also shows. The average person abandons an online venture within 6 to 8 weeks. Not months, weeks. Psychologists call this consistency bias collapse. Motivation follows a predictable curve. It spikes at the beginning, when everything is new and the possibility is intact, and it spikes again when success is close enough to feel real. But in the middle, motivation craters. And the middle is where the actual work lives. It's where the channel either gets built or gets abandoned. And it's the one phase that nobody sells you a course about, because there's nothing exciting to say about it. Show up, make the thing, don't stop. That's the whole lesson. It doesn't fit on a webinar slide. The person who posted 11 videos and stopped will never know they were 1 month from the algorithm starting to push them. That's not a metaphor. That's a pattern that shows up in the data over and over again. But here's the thing, and this one is uncomfortable. Most people who fail online don't fail because they did nothing. They fail because they did everything except the thing that would have worked. They researched, they planned, they bought the course, built the content calendar, joined the Facebook group, redesigned the logo twice, watched every video on the program, took notes in a color-coded Notion doc. They were, by any reasonable measure, busy. Psychologists have a name for this: action faking. It's the substitution of productive feeling behavior for actual output. And the reason it's so seductive is neurological. The brain releases a version of the same reward signal for planning success as it does for achieving it. Buying a course about building a YouTube channel activates some of the same dopamine pathways as actually building one. The feeling of progress is available without the risk of failure. And the industry knows this. The $20 billion online coaching market is not primarily selling you skills. It's selling you the neurological sensation of moving forward. Another course, another framework, another system. Each one arrives with the implicit promise that this is the missing piece. The thing that, once learned, will finally unlock the results. Meanwhile, the person has spent $2,000 on education for a business that has never made a dollar. And the people who sold them that education have made their money regardless. Sound familiar? Think about that for a second. The product isn't the course. The product is the feeling the course gives you before you open it. Here's what nobody talks about when they discuss the failure rate. The people most likely to quit are often the ones who started with the most confidence. Not despite their enthusiasm, because of it. High initial belief means the gap between expectation and reality lands harder. The first video gets 12 views. The first product launch generates 2 sales, both from family members. And the person doesn't think, I need more data, more time, more iterations. They think, I'm not cut out for this. It was a sign. This is the Dunning-Kruger effect operating in reverse. The model is usually described as incompetent people overestimating their abilities. But the more important and less discussed flip side is what happens when that initial overconfidence meets first contact with real difficulty. The crash isn't just motivational. It feels like evidence. It feels like the market confirming something true about you, rather than what it actually is, a completely predictable phase that every successful creator moved through without realizing they were supposed to. Adobe's data showing that 57% of Americans identify as creators, but fewer than 12% earn meaningful income, isn't a story about 45% of people being delusional. It's a story about 45% of people hitting the confidence collapse phase and having no framework for understanding that the crash was normal, that the 12 views weren't a verdict, that the 2 sales weren't a ceiling, that the market doesn't respond to enthusiasm. It responds to volume, consistency, and time. 3 things that feel like punishment when you expected momentum. And this is where it gets structural. Chronic partial failure, the pattern of almost making it, buying something new, almost making it again, is not a side effect of the online business industry. It is the business model. And it's engineered, consciously or not, around one of the most well-documented behavioral phenomena in psychology: intermittent reinforcement. It's the same variable reward schedule behind slot machines, behind social media scroll behavior, behind any system where rewards are unpredictable rather than consistent. The research, going back to B.F. Skinner's foundational work and reinforced repeatedly since, shows that intermittent rewards create stronger, more compulsive behavioral loops than predictable ones. You don't keep pulling the lever because it always pays out. You keep pulling it because it sometimes does. The uncertainty is the mechanism. Now, look at how online business success stories are distributed and marketed. The testimonials are always from people who just started seeing results. The case studies are always people in the early momentum phase. The screenshots are always from outlier months. The system is optimized, again, consciously or not, to deliver just enough signal to keep you in the behavioral loop. A small win here, a spike in traffic there, one good week after 6 bad ones. A person who fully quits stops buying. A person who is perpetually almost succeeding keeps spending on the next course, the next tool, the next coaching program that promises to be the piece they were missing. The genius of the hope machine isn't that it lies to you. It's that it tells you just enough truth to keep you in the game long after the math stopped making sense. Step back for a moment, because this is the part that actually matters. Everything described here, the idea hopping, the action faking, the confidence collapse, the compulsive course buying, looks from the outside like a personal failure, like a character flaw, like evidence that certain people just don't have what it takes. That's the story the industry tells. That's the story most people end up telling themselves. But look at the conditions those behaviors emerge from. A system that profits from your participation regardless of your outcome. a motivational culture that celebrates starting but never describes the boring middle honestly, a marketing apparatus built on survivorship bias so complete that the failure cases are functionally invisible, a reward schedule engineered to keep you engaged without ever paying out consistently. Given those conditions, the behaviors that look irrational are actually perfectly rational. Switching ideas when the current one produces no feedback is a logical response to an absence of data. Buying a course when you feel stuck is a logical response to genuine uncertainty. Quitting after the confidence collapse is a logical response to a crash that was never explained or normalized. This was never about discipline. It was never about mindset. It was about a system that was designed at every level by every incentive to extract the maximum value from people in the hoping phase. And it worked on a massive scale, on people who were smart, motivated, and deserving of better odds than they were ever shown.
The graveyard is real. The abandoned stores, the dead channels, the half-finished courses, they weren't built by people who didn't want it badly enough. They were built by people who wanted it, tried for it, and then quietly absorbed the loss alone, without any framework for understanding that what happened to them was the norm, not the exception. The opportunity was always real. Some people do make it through. But the ones who do share almost nothing with the thumbnails that sold you the idea. They weren't more talented, they weren't more disciplined, they were just willing to be wrong, in public for longer than felt reasonable, without anyone telling them it was working, without the data looking good, without the feeling of momentum to carry them. They just didn't stop during the part that was designed to make them stop. If any part of this felt familiar, drop a comment with where you stopped. The idea, the phase, the moment it went quiet. You'd be surprised how many people are sitting on the exact same number of videos, the same half-built store, the same archived project. And if you want more on the psychology behind the money decisions most people never examine, subscribe. This is what we do here.